you'll see the world's largest perfect cut diamond at 530 carats. Don't compare your engagement rings to the Star of Africa. You'll also see what is largely regarded as the world's most beautiful diamond, the Koh-i-Noor, the Mountain of Light, Light of India. As their name suggests, we've stolen these from just about everywhere. Although Her Majesty's government insists I tell you that they were given to us by grateful nations. Usually at gunpoint. This is Tower Green, it's colour-coded. It's the grass. I have to explain that because a lot of people spend an hour or so looking for a green tower. These people are Europeans. Europeans, as you now know, are lovely people, but they do have syntax problems and talk like Yoda. So, Tower Green.
Grass it is. Help you, I haven't.
Come visit the Beecham Tower. That arched window up there lets light into a chamber, the walls of which are covered with graffiti. And some of that graffiti is nearly 500 years old. Graffiti is not a new problem. Modern art is a new problem. This monstrosity! Not you. A perspex granite tubular steel. It is a monument to traitors and mutineers, and it shouldn't exist. These scum deserve no monument. This is the site of the private execution scaffold, and it was here that Henry VIII had two of his wives beheaded. Many husbands bring their wives back to admire the spot. Now, the first of these was, of course, Anne Boleyn. She was Henry VIII's second wife. His first wife was the beautiful Catherine of Aragon, a Spaniard. And they were happily married for 17 years, but actually married for 23 years. The last 6 years were made miserable because she could not produce a son. She'd given him a daughter, but that wasn't good enough. It rarely is. So he divorced her and he married Anne Boleyn. Like Catherine, she gave him a daughter and she could not give him a son, but she did try hard, really hard. Not just with Henry. I don't care what your sentimental, romantic attachment is to the myth of Anne Boleyn. I honestly don't want to know if you were Anne Boleyn in a previous incarnation. On average, I'll meet 3 of you a year. You can't all be right. You're not special. You're sick. Delusional. Seek help. Anne Boleyn should not be admired, copied, nor emulated in any way. She was found guilty of adultery with 7 men. One of these was her brother. Now, when you're married to a king, that's treason, and I don't care who you're married to, it's excessive and it's a bit weird. Well, it depends where you come from. Yeah. Not for her the block and axe. She asked to go out French fashion, and the French fashion was to be beheaded with a 2-handed sword. On the 19th of May 1536 she knelt thereabouts praying for forgiveness. As she prayed, to savour the trauma of waiting for the fatal blow, the Frenchman took off her head with one stroke of that sword. It was a beautiful piece of work. When her severed head was raised from the straw, the select audience gasped in amazement and horror because the eyes continued to gaze around at the faces in the crowd. For quite some time, whilst her neck dripped blood, her lips continued to move. But isn't that just like a woman? You know, last word. Know when to keep quiet. She'd take the hint, wouldn't you? No. She was probably so animated because she fully expected a reprieve, and suddenly being without a body must have shocked her. No arrangement had been made for a funeral, although they'd had over 2 weeks to prepare for it. There was no coffin. Anne Boleyn, the Queen of England, and obviously quite a bit shorter now, had to be stuffed into a humble arrow chest. That arrow chest lies inside this chapel. She's in good company. Next to her is Queen Catherine Howard. Henry VIII's 5th wife was also guilty of adultery, but I don't have a heart of stone. I have sympathy with her. We know that Queen Catherine Howard was a teenager when her father and family forced her to marry King Henry VIII, who by now was 51 years old, morbidly obese, with ulcerating wounds on his legs which